Oh, you're going to take my skin off, are you? Okay. The Guinness Book of World Records dates all the way back to the 1950s, and back then it was a pretty good idea. It all began when Guinness's managing director, Sir Huge Beaver. There's no fucking shot. There's no fucking shot. It must be Hugh. It's gotta be a typo, please. Sir Huge Beaver. It's Hugh Beaver, Kevin. Sorry, did I say huge? I meant Hugh Beaver. God damn it, I just looked it up. No, I couldn't see it on my teleprompter yet.
Excuses.
Kevin writes this. I read it. That's the format of the show. He had been unable to take... Huge beaver. Look at that beaver. He had been unable to take down a golden plover, and the argument was about whether the fastest game bird was the golden plover or the red grouse. He was correct, and it was the plover, but as he tried to prove it that night, he realized that this fact was impossible to confirm with the reference books available at the time. Realizing that there must be countless arguments like this on a nightly basis, the idea of the Guinness Book of World Records was born. In a time before the internet, having a single book that could resolve bar bets about the fastest mammal, the largest gourd, or the oldest person in the world proved extremely useful.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I mean, we had internet, but Guinness Book of World Records was still something you got. Like, I used to get it like for Christmas every year, or at least every couple of years, and it was fascinating. And as an adult, I kind of think it's, I mean, I've addressed this before, it's kind of bullshit, because you got to pay them to come out and certify your record. So it's like, the dude who's like, I don't know, he's got like the most paper clips on his face or whatever. He'd be like, if you did that at home and put more on there, you'd be like, I'm the new Guinness World Record holder. It's not until you've paid for someone to come out and certify that record from Guinness. Brilliant money-spinning operation, in my opinion. It started off as a promotional stunt with 1,000 copies printed and given away for free, but its popularity exceeded anything Huge Beaver could have possibly imagined. A much larger commercial print run was released, and they all lived happily ever after. At least, they certainly could have, but then everybody lost their damn minds. Instead of keeping track of sensible records that people might actually care about, Guinness started including records for any old shit that nobody needed to keep track of. Longest fingernails, oldest working club DJ, she's 83. And most coins stacked in 30 seconds are not records that anybody was ever going to look up, but they are absolutely included in the book because why the fuck not? And because you often have to pay to get your record officially recognized, yes, it's in Guinness's best interest to include as much stupid crap as possible. For a long time, it seemed like literally any record, no matter how stupid, could be included, so long as you were willing to pay the adjudicators. However, over time, it has turned out that there are actually a few limits. For example, Pedro Lopez was removed. No, he was. What murdered most children? Please, Guinness, have some taste.
So let me please introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste.
Removed from Guinness World Records after readers complained that they risked turning the title of most prolific serial killer into a competition. Yes, it's a bad idea, Guinness. It's as bad as that, it's also very distasteful. While the book is no longer encouraging people to kill each other to get their name listed in its pages, it hasn't stopped people from killing themselves while attempting to have their names listed alongside other classy superlatives like most snails on a face or largest personal collection of airline bath bags unused. Bro.
Don't worry, they're unused.
What sort of... we should get a Guinness World Record for this channel, shouldn't we? We could put it in the back there. Come up with some comments. Let me know. I'm sure community manager Liam will have a whip through them and see if there's something we can actually go for. The stupider the better. But I don't want to put in too much effort because I'm lazy. So nothing too high effort, but I am willing to pay the stupid Guinness guys to come out and make fun of them. Honourable mention. Tug-of-war. This only gets an honourable mention because the specific incident I'm going to talk about didn't kill anybody. Kevin, we're literally baying for blood here. We clicked on an episode called the Darwin Awards. We want to hear about either people dying or having their man parts so badly mauled, perhaps by bears, that they can no longer procreate. Other similar attempts have resulted in death, but since I'm sure that when Simon sat down to record an episode of Brainblaze, he wasn't planning to hear about dead children, I've decided to stick with the less fatal version of the story. I take it all back. I don't want to hear about that, Kevin. Thank you. Anyway, the year was 1978 and it was a warm day in mid-June. Also, how many children have died from tug-of-war? Shit. The school year would have been coming to a close, and the students at Harrisburg Middle School in Pennsylvania had a special treat in store. The only thing I know about Pennsylvania is it's where Scranton is, right? Scranton, Pennsylvania? Is that right? Where the office is set? I think. They were all about to go down in history for making the Guinness World Record with the largest ever tug-of-war. There were 2,200 total students and teachers involved, which meant that it was going to be close quarters since the rope was only 2,000 feet long. They've got like a foot each. Jesus. Everybody grabbed the 1.5-inch thick braided nylon and propylene rope and they began to pull. The tug-of-war went as planned for about 3 minutes, but then tragedy struck. A large crack echoed through the air like the sound of an explosion or gunfire. It was so loud that many people mistook it for a sonic boom, though the rope never actually broke the sound barrier. But it did break, and everybody involved went flying to the ground. The smell of burning flesh filled the air as people tried to get their bearings, figuring out what the hell had just happened. What the hell has just happened? The thick nylon rope was designed for heavy construction and was supposed to be able to withstand 33,000 pounds of pressure, but it had failed under the strain of the competition. Instead, it had ripped through people's hands, burning their palms and in some cases completely severing fingers. Oh my god. But unless they were holding onto it with their willies, it's not going to be like, why would I even say that? Now I've got that mental image. In total, there were over 200 people injured. You'd think that this would serve as a cautionary tale that would get Guinness to remove their record from their book. It certainly removed records for less, such as removing the record for heaviest fish after it caused people to overfeed and potentially kill their pets. What's next? Record for the fattest dog. Let's go. Come here, Bingo. You're getting overfed, Bingo. My uncle had a cat that was so fat when it ran, it just looked absurd. It was furry, but it was also just fucking obese. And when it ran, it instead of running like a normal cat, it would just hop with its back feet like this. It looks ridiculous. However, the tug-of-war record remains to this day, and attempts have resulted in death as recently as December of 2022. Newspapers describe the woman's death as a freak accident, but since this same shit happens almost every year, it's less of a freak accident and more of a highly predictable outcome. I should have never gone ziplining. Salindra Nath Roy was 47 years old when he set his first ever Guinness World Record. In 2011, he tied his ponytail around a zip wire and travelled 270 feet down the zip line, setting the record for longest distance travelled on a zip line using only a person's hair. People are going to be, Simon, you're just making fun of this because you're jealous. No, it's insane. Why would you do this?
Because it's fun.
I'm not sure whether or not there was an existing record he had to beat or if this was just a brand new record created just for Salindra, but he was now the undisputed champion. To ensure there were no doubts about how incredibly strong his hair was, Salindra decided to set another world record in 2012. This time, he pulled a 42 metric ton Darjeeling Himalayan railway train just over 8 feet using his hair. Now, I was making fun of the ziplining thing. Yes, that is fucking cool. That's pretty cool. He pulled a train? I mean, obviously he got to use all of the muscles in his body to pull the train along. It's not like he's got magical hair, Kevin. But he was only connected by the train to the train using his hair. I can't even imagine how that's possible. I've seen some of these world's strongest men competitions when they have to drag convoys of trains or trucks. Didn't some guy pull like a fucking plane with his teeth? Woo! But at least there's a cable that they can get a firm grip onto. The fact that someone can impart enough force to move a train without the hair just being ripped from their skull is astonishing to me, but there were plenty of witnesses and camera crews recording the attempt, so you're welcome to watch it yourself. However, it was the following year, in 2013, that Salindra's stunts were going to take a deadlier turn. On April the 28th, he decided to break his own record for ziplining, this time crossing the Teesta River. He was 49 years old at the time, and since the strength of his hair was undeniable, it seemed like this shouldn't have been a difficult task. If Salindra shared the belief that his ziplining excursion should have been as simple and boring as every other time somebody had gone ziplining, then it might explain how things went wrong. A crowd of 1,000 people gathered to watch Salindra's world record attempt. However, according to the police, he hadn't actually gotten permission to perform the death-defying stunt. Don't you need, adjudicators in there? Guinness is going to be there, and they're going to be able to make sure it's all legal. and then pay us. I've been able to independently verify the police's claim, and the size of the crowd makes it surprising that they wouldn't have been aware what was going to happen. But if they really weren't, then what followed makes a lot more sense. The world record attempt started as normal and everything was going great, but halfway across the zipline, Cylindra's hair got stuck in the wheeler. The simple solution, what's the wheeler? I don't even know what that is. It's some sort of zipline device? The simple solution, and the one Cylindra attempted, was to abandon the record and just grab the zipline with his hands so that he could pull himself to the other side of the river. Unfortunately, the wheeler was now jammed and wouldn't move, causing him to panic for about 20 to 25 minutes in front of the crowd before he became unresponsive. Why? He's just hanging there by his hair. I mean, it's gonna be uncomfortable, but he pulls trains with his hair. It wasn't until 45 minutes after Cylindra had become stuck that rescuers finally were able to free him from the zipline and bring him to what should have been safety. When I first mentioned that this was a story about somebody going ziplining using only their hair, I bet you assumed it was going to end with a person plummeting to their death. Absolutely, I just assumed it would burn through his hair. It's certainly what I assumed, and I'm genuinely surprised at just how strong his hair apparently is. What wound up killing Cylindra wasn't a perilous fall into the water below, it was fear. After struggling for 20 minutes while suspended in the air by his hair, he became so panicked that he had a heart attack. If he really had failed to get proper approval for this stunt, it's likely that approval would have been brought with a rescue team.
What?
Would have brought with it a rescue team that could have prevented his death. But you're going to get rescued. It's fear? Really? When I was a kid, there was a legend that if you jumped off a building, right, you were dead before you hit the ground because you'd have a heart attack from fear. That can't be the case all the time, though, right? Do people really have heart attacks from fear? I've been, shocked, ah! But that feels like more something that would give me a heart attack than, actual, oh my god, this is bad.
Attention. If you or a loved one was diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
Gotta go fast. Jesse Combs was a professional racer, metalworker, and TV personality. Metalworker, just throwing it in there. He's a TV personality, he's a professional racer. Is that not paying the bills? You need to be a metalworker as well. Feels like Simon Whistler, YouTube personality, and Checkout Boy. On television, she was best known for Spike TV's Extreme 4x4, but also appeared on a variety of other shows, including All Girl Garage and that season of Mythbusters, where Carrie was out on maternity leave. Because we're all extremely familiar with Mythbusters, Kevin. Jessie was an accomplished racer, winning titles and setting multiple women's speed records, though these records aren't tracked by the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile, the official governing body for land speed records. The FIA's opinion is that because cars are motorized vehicles that don't rely on human strength, there's no reason that men's and women's records needed to be separate.
Equal rights!
That's certainly a sensible argument, at least on the surface, but Guinness also includes speed records for female drivers because why not? Which is also a sensible argument. I mean, you could make the argument the same thing. Why is Formula One so utterly dominated by men? I feel like let's ask ChatGPT because it's always been just men. And it's like, you're just driving a car. Struggle with a bloody button. Your OpenAI, you make the most incredible thing that I've ever used, but you make a button that is impossible to press. Look at this shit. There we go. Yo, ChatGPT, homeboy, what's up with women in Formula One? Why is it just dudes? Isn't it just cars? I know they have to have, strong necks and shit, but why aren't women more popular or more successful in Formula One?
Yeah, you've touched on a really interesting topic. Formula One, like many motorsports, has been male-dominated for a long time. There are a few reasons for this. Historically, motorsports were seen as more of a male activity, which limited opportunities for women. Even though driving a Formula One car is about skill and precision, not just physical strength, the perception and culture around the sport haven't always been welcoming to women. In recent years, there's been more effort to change this.
Wow. So it's not a physical reason, it's just literally because it's an old boys club. Of course, when Jesse teamed up with North American Eagle Project in 2013 as their driver, the goal wasn't to set a new women's record. They were going after FIA's singular land speed record of over 760 miles per hour set by Andy Green in 1997. It was the first land vehicle to break the sound barrier, and the record has since been unchallenged. Some trial runs were done in 2013, but they didn't get close to their goal. They were aiming for a nice round 800 miles per hour, or Mach 1.058. Oh my god, that's crazy. I know that we just said that, but it really puts it in perspective. They're going faster than the speed of sound in what's essentially a car. I don't really play anymore, it's been a couple of years, but I played a game called BeamNG. It's this great game, it's like a sandbox where you have cars and stuff. And I was working on that for so long to make a car that could break the sound barrier, like using all sorts of things and like modding the cars and doing all of this. Never got there. In 2019, the team traveled to a dry lake bed in Alva Desert in Oregon to try again. It's important to have a location like this because you need a massive flat area to drive on in order to reach the desired speeds. Of course, if you want to reach those speeds, you also aren't going to do it in an ordinary car, which is why the vehicle was just a jet on wheels.
This is not going to end well for me.
This is not going to end well for you, no.
And I mean that in as literal sense as possible. The car was constructed using the fuselage from an old Lockheed F-104 Starfighter and a jet engine. The record they were trying to beat had been set using a similar jet-powered rocket, and it had stood for over 20 years. It probably would have been better left alone, though. Once the attempt finally began on their day, things looked like they were going according to plan. Jesse's jet-powered car broke past 500 miles per hour, but then disaster struck. One of the front wheels failed, causing the car to crash and burst into flames. But Jesse died from blunt force trauma long before the fire erupted. Kevin, this is just grim. It's not like there's nothing amusing about this. Not that the guy dying from a heart attack was. But it's like, this is just a devastating car accident. As far as anybody can tell, there wasn't anything wrong with the design of the car itself. The wheel is believed to have failed after hitting a small rock. Something that it wouldn't have noticed if it was going like 30 miles per hour, but was deadly at such high speeds. The North American Eagle Project has since been shut down, and hopefully that will be the end of anybody trying to break the overall land speed record. It definitely won't be. People are going to be doing this again. Of course they are, because we're humans. We love breaking records. Maybe that's the record we should break. Just joking. Don't make me do that, please. Also, it sounds really expensive and time-consuming. However, Guinness did posthumously award Jesse the women's land speed record because the car hit 523 miles per hour before crashing. That is simultaneously very sweet and probably a bad idea, as it could theoretically encourage people to attempt records, even if they know their attempt will kill them. I don't know how likely that actually is to happen, but it seems like something Guinness's lawyers would have warned against. You came to the right place. What is the worst way to die? Oh my god. I think maybe it was a YouTube video thumbnail that I saw the other day, and I didn't watch the video because I'm on YouTube a lot.
YouTube channels, I have 11.
And I have to work so hard not to just click on random thumbnails that I find super interesting. But I think it was a video, I think I must have Googled it, or maybe I did watch the video, whatever. But it was about a dude who was like going caving or whatever, and then he got stuck while he was caving with his head like down. So he's like caving through, you know, where you go through like little caves and little crevices and stuff. Like he's going in and he's like wiggling through and he gets stuck and he's like, oh, I'm stuck. Yeah, can you pull me out? And they're like, yeah, we can't get you out. And the rescue team try and they can't get him out. And he's stuck in there for like a day and then he dies. Fuck, man, that's got to be like one of the worst ways to go. I don't know what it is about that, but that really gets me. Like people say like drowning or in a fire and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's bad, but it's not like that. And then wasn't there some dude who was, I feel like this was in Australia, and he's like dropped his keys in a drain or something. And so he's reaching into this drain to get his keys, and he slips, and he falls in like heads down in a drain, and he can't get out, and then he drowns in the drain. And you're like, this is it. That's horrible.
Stupid deaths, they're funny because they're true. Woo!
I mean, would you... But then it's like, how about getting tortured to death by the Mujahideen? Maybe that would be bad. Yes, it would. Oh, you're going to take my skin off, are you? Okay.
Stupid deaths. Hope next time it's not you.
It's a subjective question, and many of the answers involve ancient or medieval forms of torture. But assuming that you weren't being executed, what is the worst way to go? There are a few popular answers, such as drowning, being burned to death, or, as is relevant to this entry, being buried alive. Well, being buried alive would be bad, but you're also just going to die of like carbon dioxide poisoning, which is not that bad, right? You just like pass out. As a fun side note, when I sought to find survey data on the most feared means of death, I discovered what may be one of the strangest ways you could die. In 2015, a Colombian man died because his tapeworm got cancer. Somehow this resulted in abnormally small tapeworm tumors growing throughout the man's body. They were abnormally small, but not record-breakingly so. The smallest tumor ever removed was found in January of 2023, being less than a millimeter in size. You're like, well, glad we caught that early. As for the largest tumor ever removed intact, that was a gargantuan 3 foot wide. Bruh. 302-pound tumor. Siri, how much is 302 pounds in kilograms? It did 3.2 pounds, which is 1.45 kilograms. So let's say 140 kilograms. That's basically twice my weight in tumor attached to an ovary. What? It was removed in 1991. The logistics of how such a tumor could even exist blow my mind, but the 34-year-old woman made a full recovery, so that's nice. Unfortunately, I can't say the same for the subject of this entry, 24-year-old Janaka Basanayaka of Sri Lanka. Janaka was a member of the Sri Lankan police force who had fought in the Sri Lankan Civil War, and he could have had a bright future ahead of him. Instead, he decided to try to set the world record for longest time spent buried alive. According to friends and family, Janaka was on his third attempt at this. He'd already been buried alive twice, once for 2 hours and once for 6 hours, and this time he was going for 6.5 hours. Wasn't Mr. Beast buried alive for like a week or some shit? Janaka was placed in a wooden box at the bottom of a 10-foot ditch before the whole thing was covered with soil. Hours later, when he was finally freed, he was dead. The initial reporting, when this made global headlines, indicated that doctors had not identified his cause of death, and since I don't speak Sinhalese, I can't scour Sri Lankan newspapers for follow-up articles about Janaka's death. However, I can certainly make an educated guess. This was an extremely low-tech setup, literally just a dude buried alive in a box, so he almost certainly suffocated to death after running out of oxygen.
Oxygen running out.
But there's one particularly strange aspect of this story. Nobody knows specifically what record he was actually trying to break. He was upping his time buried alive from 6 to 6.5 hours, which makes it sound like his 6-hour attempt must have been really close to the record. However, the Guinness World Record for longest voluntary burial is 9 days, set back in 1898. That's not even close to the longest time either, but Guinness has not chosen to update or accept submissions for that entry because deliberately burying yourself alive is too dangerous. Oh no, Mr. Beast, you missed out! But driving over 500 miles per hour is not. Yeah, right. It's best not to try and find any rhyme or reason for how Guinness makes these decisions. Of course, Guinness's refusal to track this particular record hasn't stopped others from doing so, and there are numerous different world records for being buried alive. The current longest record was set by Jeff Smith, who was buried in the garden of his local pub in Mansfield, England. Jeff's mother had previously held the record before it was stolen away by a filthy American. Jeff, what? Kevin's American, relax. He wrote this. I would never say a filthy American, that'd be racist. And Jeff, but if you're American, you can say that's truth. And Jeff wanted to restore glory to his family and his country. God save the king, Jeff. God save the king. All he had to do was live buried alive for 142 days, and he could bring the record back home where it belonged. That's nearly half a year. What the fuck? Obviously, such a task would be impossible in the way that Janaka tried it, and Jeff's coffin had a ventilation shaft both to ensure that he had plenty of oxygen and to provide a means by which he could be passed food, water, books, and presumably batteries for the portable TV he had with him. The one thing his coffin didn't have, however, was a toilet, so I'm not really sure how that whole situation was handled, and honestly, I'd rather not think about it. I assume he's like taking a shit in a bag and it's going up through the special hole where his books come down. But Jeff's record was set back in 1999, and this again raises the question of exactly what the hell record Janaka thought he would be breaking in 2012 by burying himself alive for just long enough to die. On the bright side, it must have really cut down on the funeral costs. They just had to put him back where they found him. Grim. And that's where we end today's episode. Thanks for being here. Sir Huge Beaver.